He is 100% worth it.
He takes it to another level. Oh my God, I just fell in love with it.
Thanks so much, Jay.
Blew my mind. And it worked. I wanted to buy my thing.
Jay is, I would say, the Yoda of sales calls, man.
Just talking to Jay, he was so good at just taking what it is, seeing the opportunity and the value and the real reason we are making it.
Talk to Jay because he got it. He can definitely help you out.
Talk to Jay. You're going to get a lot. You're going to gain a lot.
I would absolutely recommend him for any position that you have.
Jay's definitely the guy.
Give him the chance, give him the opportunity. You won't regret it.
He's good at what he does, so I highly recommend him, and I would book him before he is fully booked out.
Welcome back to the Sales Ninja Show podcast, where we cut through the noise, ditch the outdated sales tactics, and show you how to close deals with confidence, strategy, and integrity. I'm Jay Lee, founder of Sales Ninja. If you're tired of chasing leads, handling endless objections, and feeling like you have to convince people to buy, you're in the right place. Here, we do sales differently. We believe in positioning over pressure, where the right people lean in without the need for pushy tactics. Ew. That's the heart of the reverse glass selling framework, a kingdom-driven approach built on trust, service, and true connection. Because when you lead with value, sales become effortless. And when you sell more, you can give more. Today's guest is a visionary entrepreneur who blends creativity with smart strategy. She's a transformational business strategist, speaker, and #1 international best-selling author, featured in Forbes and Entrepreneur Magazine. She co-founded Evolved Podcasting, helping leaders like you elevate their message, turn their voice into measurable impact. Through her work, she guides entrepreneurs in amplifying authority, expanding influence, and generating new income streams with the power of storytelling and AI innovation. Please welcome Rae Irelan. Welcome, Rae, to the Sales Ninja Show podcast. How are you today?
Hey, good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on here.
Nice to have you. And obviously, everyone's going to ask about the beautiful backdrop. So let's start from there.
Well, it's just fake. No, kidding. We're out in Puerto Rico for the month, and it has been totally amazing. Me, my husband, and our 3-year-old son. We are a little surf family, and we're getting out into the waves every day and getting our little guy out there. So it's been just a big blessing after a big season of a lot of travels for events and speaking and masterminds. So
amazing.
Mellow out and do things like this.
Awesome. So, and we'll get there to the conversation of AI and video avatars and deep fake and stuff like that, because, you joked by saying, hey, this is a fake AI background. But, with the advancement of AI and technology, I mean, I'm in a mentorship program where the AI avatar is actually a coach and has talked to people like Dr. Phil, on TV in real time with real responses. So it's not far from the truth. And this is kind of amazing time and a scary time as well. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, your personal journey. What inspired your journey into creative and transformational strategy?
Yeah, for me, it was just a personal experience. So I was an artist my whole life growing up, dancer, ended up studying and leaving school early to go become a dancer in New York and Boston. And from there, ended up getting into the music scene. And I was a touring musician for about 5 years and built up our touring band, basically playing on the street corners throughout the US, into a nationally touring act where we were playing festivals and amphitheaters and all of the stuff, living the dream. And so I most identify as an artist or a storyteller. Never thought I would be a business person, but as we were doing the arts, I realized someone's got to learn business here, because we could be, the best performing artists, but still we're not getting booked. So that was sort of my beginning stages of getting into business. And then going into the personal development side was when I was living out this rock star lifestyle, and I wasn't walking in my faith at the time, but my life was really just shambles. Like we were doing 20 shows a month, all in different cities, and it was the full rock and roll scene, right? And drugs, sex, alcohol, all the stuff. And I had one of our homecoming shows after a big long tour, and we were going back to San Diego. Had a huge like sold out show, and I got into my car after that night and I was like, I'm done. And so I actually ended up having a moment where I just decided I'm done, and I drove my car off of a cliff. And
What?
yeah, not good. Like that's how bad things had gotten. And I'm going off the cliff, and this was when I had a big encounter with God, and this huge almighty presence came in as I was going up to the white light. And I remember him just asking me, like, do you want to stay or do you want to go? I'm like, I want to go. Like, get me out of here. Like, have you seen my life? It's a mess. My relationships are a mess. My health, like the way that I connect with myself, I don't have a connection with you. Like, and then our God is so amazing that he flashed before my eyes a very clear vision of my future. And it was this reality of husband, kids, business, and impact. And it did not look like anything that my life was looking like at that time, but it was just a new perspective, and I needed to see this new perspective of what was possible. And so in a split second, I was like, that's what you have for me? Like, I want to stay. And literally what happened immediately after that, I dropped back into my body in the rolling car. And to be honest, at that point, everyone's like, you must have been freaking out. No, I was ecstatic. I was just so grateful. I just had an encounter with God, and it was the most real thing I've ever experienced. I was like, this is amazing, even though I was like in a rolling car accident. And again, God gave me full protection over this experience. And so the car ended up landing at the bottom, and I just walked out, and I didn't have a bruise or a scratch. And it was just a completely miraculous thing. And so I'm ecstatic. I'm like, this must be a dream or something. Like, this is so, out of the ordinary. So I'm like kind of hitting myself to wake myself up, and I'm not waking up. So I'm like, well, I'm just gonna go crawl up this canyon. So luckily, like, my dad had always taught me how to be a rock climber from a young age. So I crawl up this canyon, and I get to the top, and there's a guy there that had witnessed the whole thing. So he was freaking out, and he's like, he's crying. I'm like, are you okay? He's like, I just saw this happen. I'm like, that was me. So he's just embracing me and praying over me. And I'm just
praying
like,
over you.
He was praying over me. Yes. And I was just like, this is just the most amazing thing. Like, I thank you, God, for saving my life and giving me this new vision and direction. And now I know what I'm going to do. And at least not really necessarily right next, but like, I have a vision. But then it was like life came and threw me down, because the reality of where my life was compared to this vision was so far off. All of a sudden it was cop cars, ambulance, fire trucks, like the whole thing. And that night I ended up in jail. And so it was a huge reality check, because I had drugs on me, like all of the stuff. It was a huge reality check where I was like, okay, I just got this vision and I like this vision. Like, I want that, but now I'm here. So now I have to figure out, like, and I didn't know, like, whether I'm going to be in here for a long time or not. Like, I got to kind of map out this journey, and let's map it backwards, because I like that vision better. So that's what got me into personal development, and really like looking and seeing, okay, thank you, God, for this vision, but like, how do I actually put that in place? So that's where I started seeking out counsel and support and communities, and really just getting the ducks in a row, of life. And so this was a decade ago. And the coolest thing is that, since then I started my own coaching company. I then, pivoted into business coaching, and I've been behind some of the biggest brands in personal development and health now, and have been able to, truly make an impact, like in our in our podcast agency, we have over 400 million downloads between our clients. So like that impact number, it hit. My husband, like we got a husband, we have a baby, like it, all the things ended up lining up. And it's just so amazing because you sometimes you don't know if that vision's going to be real. But the thing is God's not going to like, he's going to show us the desires of our heart and what he has for us, not like fake us out. And so as my path just got clearer and more straight and more aligned with him, things ended up happening quicker and with more ease and more grace. And so that's kind of the main thing that ended up happening. And since then I've written a book about that experience. That was the international bestseller. I'm about to release my second book where I actually talk about when Jesus came back into my life, and what happened with that, even in relationship with that accident and all the stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of amazing things that God is doing, and doing in all of us. I think the last thing I'll say about that is, a lot of people, it's a shocking story, right? And so I just kind of like to sometimes just let like, I call that my miracle moment, but your miracle moment might be just like tripping over a rock and like falling on your face and like having this aha, So I always just like to say that because I know I'm a little bit of an extreme person. I'm a surfer, I'm a skydiver. Like, I'm like, of course God had to kind of give it to me in this sort of way, but we all get to have our own miracle moment where we get to say, oh, I see a different perspective and I want to go after that. And then it's about, after you have that dream or vision, then it's about creating it. And then once you create it, then it's sharing. And what Jay does here, it's the impact piece. It's then going from the outpouring to be serving others.
What an intro. My goodness.
I figured we just like go right in, right?
Yeah, God gets all the glory. Love going in the deep end, and love that, your stories and your analogies and impact, from surfer, skydiver, cliff diver with cars, to prison, to podcast, to profit, and impact. Amazing. So let's go back a little bit in your story, because you're trying to reverse engineer this new vision, but then reality hits. Police come, ambulance come. You're like, okay, I didn't really kind of forecast prison and how long I'm going to be there, because if I'm in here for a little bit, then God's plans are kind of on hold.
Actually, I didn't think that. I didn't feel like they were on hold at all. I just thought, well, I guess this is where he wants me to do that. It was the most interesting thing. I mean, it was just a mindset that like I couldn't have created it myself. It was totally God, giving me this other perspective. And it was just such a promise that I knew that even if I was in here, that all was still going to happen. So if I was stuck in jail for 20 years, I was like, well, then I guess I'll be writing my books in here, and like I'll be figuring out how to make impact, and I'm going to be getting my health in top gear. Like there was no question mark on whether it was going to happen or not. It was just where and who can I get to help me? Because I knew that the life where I was at, I knew that I wasn't strong enough to be in that identity yet. So I knew that there was a bit of a journey ahead.
Well, I think your mindset is already different from most, because when people are in circumstance, a lot of people become victims, and that victim mentality says, woe is me, I'm stuck, I can't do anything, and all these different excuses and reasons, which they can justify in their own mind. But your mindset is one of like, whatever circumstance that I'm in, I will do what I need to do. I will be who God's called me to be. So that's a very different mindset. I think that's helped you get where you want to get. What I find really amazing about, there's so many things in the story, but is that when you're diving or driving off of a cliff, I don't know, how far did you fall, and how does a car land at the bottom with no bruise or scratch and you walking out unscathed? Like how does it drop? Like, just give us an idea.
So a few days after this had happened, basically after I was released and all of that, I ended up just being in jail for one night.
One night.
Praise God. That was a miraculous thing in itself. So I ended up out of there really quickly. And then it took a while to even find the car and where was it, what towing place. So my mom ended up taking me And we're there, and actually when we called to find the car, the guy couldn't understand. He couldn't understand that he was talking to the person that was the driver, because he said he had never seen a car that bad and talked to the person within, that week.
Yeah.
So he said, come find me. Like, my name is John. When you get here, come find me. I have to meet you. Like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I don't understand. So we get there and we actually find out, like, in my memory, because God had protected me in that experience, I just walked out and I literally I was like, this is weird that I don't have a bruise or a scratch. But in my mind, I'm thinking maybe it was just one flip or something, right? I don't really know. And so we get there, the car is actually completely smashed everywhere except for over the driver's seat. It was like there was this egg of protection. So every single window smashed in except for the driver's window. And right in front of the front window, it was still there. And the whole thing had gone into the passenger seat. So it was like, thank God there was no one else with me. Like, it was only me that was going to be able to survive that entire crash. And one other little miracle moment that happened in this was the night before. I had shared, it was a homecoming show, so I was there, my family was there, my parents were there, and my mom knew, I think intuitively, that like I was struggling with stuff. So she had actually given me a necklace, and she said, like, keep this necklace and just like connect with your protection and your angels and God. And so I put that necklace on that night, didn't really think much of it. But when we went to go get the car, it was so smashed, my mom almost fainted. So she had to go, like, she left the scene. She was like, I can't do this. So I start walking around the car and I get to the driver's side, and there is the necklace just sitting right there. So I asked the guys, I'm like, did you guys put this here? Like, how did this? And they're like, no, like, we didn't touch anything inside the car. And I was just like, wow, it's like, if I needed a confirmation from God to say, like, I got you, like, this was all part of the plan, it was just a total miracle. So they said that the car probably flipped around 4 or 5 times.
Do you know how far the elevation or how high it was?
I'm not sure. Maybe, I'm not really good with the, like, maybe 75 feet, 100 feet.
What?
It wasn't like totally straight down. There was, it was on an angle. But it was a miracle because it was just like the way, exactly where I went to, there were no trees. There was like a tree just a few yards to the right and few yards to the left. There were trees and kind of like more like canyony, bushes and stuff like that. And it was just this one little spot that just kind of rolled and stopped. I mean, you just can't make it up. It's just all God. I'm like, I still don't even understand when.
Did you get pictures?
I did get pictures, and it was so interesting. I was looking for them. So I came up on my 10-year anniversary of this accident just this fall. And so I was thinking, okay, I'm going to release my second book, and I'm going to share photos. And I couldn't find the photos anywhere. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if that's just like more protection, of God being like, I just gave you spiritual amnesia from the intensity of that, but I don't know. I'll have to see, because I would love to have. There was definitely one photo that I had of me with the car totally smashed at the towing spot after I had seen that necklace. So
amazing.
Yep.
Well, I want to recognize Miles. Thank you for being on both podcasts. I had one this morning at 8, and he's also come to the second one. So thanks for tuning in. He said, damn, it wasn't your time. And he's kind of mind blown that, someone can flip in a car after a canyon cliff dive off of a car to, take your own life. Flipping 4 to 5 times, approximately 75 to 100 feet. There's no way that anyone could survive that with the trees and with the canyon and with that kind of a drop, and to have the only area within that car protected, and your mom giving you that necklace. You still have the necklace?
No.
No way. Okay. You can create one, and that could be part of your.
I like that. That's a great idea.
That's your merch for your next book launch.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
From ashes to beauty or something like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's like it was just God. Like God, he's so much bigger than all of us, and I think sometimes we we know this, right? Like we know it, but it's good to just sometimes hear other people's stories of how he really does have the final say in what's happening here, you know?
Amazing. So let's go into your background as a professional dancer and musician. I don't know if you're a singer, a songwriter, or play instruments, maybe all of the above. And
Yeah,
as a
all the
dancer,
above.
tell us about your background as a performer and storyteller, and how that formed who you are today as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, all the above. So just a full on performing artist. What it really gave me was a sense of discipline, a sense of understanding, you know, really working on goals and just having to get into the studio every single day and just keep showing up in the good days, the bad days. And it also gave me an understanding of storytelling. And so that's one of the things that I love most is being a storyteller. And that really transitioned into what I'm now doing today with just helping others become storytellers and sharing their stories, you know. And it's kind of interesting too, because I think there's so much that I've learned by being a performer, but then there was also there was so much that I actually had to take off, you know, like this whole idea of performing to show something, where I think really like what we're all craving, at least right now in today's world, is just people that aren't performing, right? You don't have the filter on, like you're just being real. You're not just giving the highlight reel. And so I got to see like really what does that look like to put on a performance, which is helpful. Say you're, you know, speaking in front of an audience. There's times where it's actually fun to put on a performer identity and create entertainment. Like people do need to be entertained. If you're a doctor, like we work with a lot of like doctors and lawyers creating their shows. And sometimes they're just getting so into the nitty gritty. We're like, all right, let's like spicing this up a bit, you know, like have some fun with it. But there's a time to do that. And then there's a time to just take off any performance and just be real and share. So I think really nuancing that and working with our clients on that is one of my favorite things to do.
Walk me through in a real case scenario. I'm a client of yours. I used to be shy, but when I got knocked over the head with by the Holy Spirit in my last year of high school, I became an extrovert and a radical evangelist, a pastor, church planter, saw tens of thousands of people come to Christ. And then I pivoted to high ticket sales, closed millions, scale companies to 0 to 3 million in 24 months, 0 to 16 million, 29 months, 100K months to $1 million months, and closed like $1 million in like 12 weeks, part-time, half-time. So the achievements are there. And I just kept my head down and didn't know that was a thing until people like Eli Wild or people like would interview me in their podcast. And they're like, how are you getting like 81% close rates and 96% cash collected rates and blah, 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 all this stuff. And so, my former self is like, my parents would be like, don't talk about yourself. Don't brag. Don't tell people, about money and, because money is the love of money is the root of all evil. So there's all these kinds of, backstories that I have that say, social media is not my thing. I don't really like it. So when I'm going on there, it's a necessary, evil. And that's maybe even a bad way to position this, given that all that we're doing right now is social media. So walk me through on the being real and the sharing the authentic self to, there's a time where you need to impersonate to entertain. And what would you advise someone like me who has been able to grow and scale businesses and able to close millions of dollars?
Yeah. The biggest thing that I see is a sharpening of getting really good at telling and sharing hooks. So if you can't go right into knowing the pain and being really specific, and also maybe bringing in some curiosity, right? Or some type of connection right from the start, what I see is people sort of tune out. So like what you just did, Jay, you're like, I had these achievements, but I was like, right, like that creates curiosity. A lot of times when we're working with a client and they've had all of these like incredible accolades and things that they've done, it's just about really getting to the chase, getting to the meat of it early on. And this is also something that I think is just societal. Like, I don't think this is a normal way for us to talk and connect, right? If we're at a party, we're going to be like, hey, like, oh, I saw you down at the beach earlier. How's your day? Like, this is amazing weather. Like, there are casualties. And so that's what I have to work on when we're coaching people, is to actually kind of go into this really weird space of not doing the casualties, but just jumping in, because that's how we're actually connecting with one another online. So it's really like a unique formula when it comes to connection and creating storytelling. And so if you can create that connection, create that attention hook right at the beginning, then usually they're going to be able to stay on longer, consume more of what you're trying to say, and then you can kind of air out the storytelling and just be yourself later down. You don't have to always be like drilling a point home. But that's really the biggest shift, and the thing that we look at when we're working with our clients that are coming in that type of capacity.
Amazing. So what were some of the biggest lessons? Because you said you had like 400 million podcast downloads. So that's incredible. And what were some of the biggest lessons you learned while building the Evolved podcasting?
Yeah. So some of the biggest lessons we've learned, and I'll kind of put this in the podcast perspective and less of like the us building the business. And if we want to go there, we can. But I think it's helpful probably for audiences to hear in terms of how to actually grow and scale podcast. One of the things that people would always come to us with is, hey, I want to monetize this. And that's important, especially, so all of the podcasts that we're partnered with and behind are impact first. That's just how it goes. But what we saw about like 3-4 years ago is everyone was so impact first that they actually didn't want to make money from their podcast, because they're like, this is my overflow. This is how I want to give. And we're like, yay, we love this. And, that feels great. But it doesn't feel great later on when you are 50 or 100 episodes in and you're like, I'm kind of tired of this expensive hobby. And I would actually go rather like take my family out for dinner, or like, take my neighbors out for dinner. And so there was this really big shift that had to happen that we recognized, where we're like, we actually have to make sure that podcasts are monetizing so that they have the longevity. Because if you really want to make a big impact, it's actually going to take those reps. Yeah, you could have like a podcast like pop off, or, like a hit singer gets a one-time song, but what is that actually going to do in terms of like legacy? It's not much. It's going to take longevity and really building something out from a podcast and letting it live and breathe on. And so that's where we started to shift things. And what we found is there's really a very like clear structure and system for monetizing shows. That was one of the biggest learning lessons that we had to go through, which is, not necessarily jumping into ad spend or things like that, or really understanding where's the podcast, where's the business, and where can we stair step our way into more monetization and more impact simultaneously without jumping over things, because sometimes we would start monetizing shows in different ways and then basically burn out the audiences. So that was one of the biggest like strategic things that we've learned in the last few years.
So I'm curious, because you said, there's people that you talk to that have 50 to 100 episodes and haven't monetized. So I'm just crossing 150 episodes in the last year and a half, and I haven't really monetized because, it was like impact. It was like you said, impact first. Mm-hmm. Actually, to be honest, that's not entirely true, because I have actually enrolled clients and have done partnerships. And recently, more so now, I think, because of the authoritative expertise, the social proof. And, I'm doing, 2 to 4 podcasts per week. That visibility is getting out there. I'm not like on the Forbes magazine. I'm not on the Entrepreneur. Like, you're like on all these different big stages. I'm actually curious, how are you doing all these things to get that visibility and to monetize podcasting? And what's some advice that you can give to myself or other people that are, looking to launch a podcast or to get brand visibility?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing is just to make sure that you do have a monetization plan from the start. That's one of the best things. We've seen clients literally monetize their show within 48 hours. And so that's helpful. It's like, and that's not going to happen with everyone, but it's happened with multiple. And that's helpful, because then that's just more fuel in the fire to keep keep things going. So I love hearing that, like, okay, yeah, you know, you even caught yourself. You're like, I haven't. Wait, I have. There's clients and opportunities. And that's the start. That's like, you want to start doing it in the most organic way where you're just building relationships. And that's what a podcast is really all about. That's what it's for. In my perspective, is that it should be a relationship accelerator first
Amen.
and foremost.
Mhm.
And we never know what God is going to do with our relationships. And I do think I'm not alone in being someone that is praying every day, like, God, bring me the people you want me to do life and business with, right? Like, yeah, I talk to people all the time. They're like, I say the same thing. I'm like, well, of course we met, you know, and got connected. That makes sense. And so I say that because there's been clients, there's been partnerships, and there's also like so many opportunities, speaking opportunities. We've had clients even like get new opportunities from like the dialogues within their show, realizing, wait, I want to do like this bigger movement. I want to start a national holiday. One of our clients started National Forgiveness Day.
What?
And that was from her betrayal podcast. And she realized through all these conversations, everyone just actually wants forgiveness. Let's just like plant this day. So I think first and foremost is just staying organic and staying in that relationship building space. And then once you see traction starting to build, that's where you're like, okay, there's traction. Let's run. Let's go in this direction, because we each have our own unique like niche and like people that God wants us to steward and bring value to. And sometimes we got to start broad, and actually recommend anyone that's doing a show to start broad. So like Jay, your sales ninja, like sales is a pretty broad thing that allows a lot of people to come into your net and sphere. And then from there, you're going to start to see, I'm sure you're probably already seeing, like, what is the repetition of people that are wanting more of what I have, where there's good like synergy and good fits. And then you can narrow down organically from there. So okay, I think I maybe went off a little topic from your question, but
No, it's good. Like, so I'm just thinking, like, you know, when someone like myself or people who are listening have a podcast that hasn't monetized, and you say, you know, monetization can be happening from the start, even within 48 hours. So a suggestion or best practice to charge people to come on the podcast, or is it like you're just getting clients because you're building authentic relationships?
It's number two. It's the latter. It's getting clients from the authentic relationships, not necessarily just charging, because again, that's a more advanced strategy. Like, who's going to come on to a show if it hasn't really gotten that much traffic? Maybe if you have a huge audience, but again, there's so many different layers, and that's where it's fun. You know, start off just building relationships, and you'll get clients from here, because there's so many different ways that you can use even this one episode as an authority asset online. So first of all, you need to figure out what are all the ways that I can use it. So that's how we shortcut. We kind of have this huge mapping of like, use it from A to Z, right? Where most people are just using it ABC. So that's, you know, you want to just think of all the opportunities you can first and foremost organically with this one asset. And then from there, you can stack on different monetization strategies and tactics. But yeah, and to be honest, even when you're stacking others on, the most like ROI ones are still going to be relationship forward. So just start practicing that and get that into your bones, because once you do, then you just become a relationship person, a connector, and that's where things can totally multiply. And just like, you just watch God do his work.
Amen. So how does someone go from 0 to 400 million podcasts, let alone the first 100 or 1,000 or 10,000?
Yeah, so great question. Well, you don't really just jump usually unless you have a big brand already. So sometimes we are working with a company. So for instance, we have this new company that we're just getting started with them, and they are a tile company, and like tiles for homes, right? And they do these really creative designs for their tiles and stuff like that. They have a huge list that they really haven't been doing much with. they're doing some email marketing and stuff like that, but like no one knows who's behind the scenes, who are the founders. And the cool thing is the founders, they're really about like intentional living and, designing these spaces for people to be relaxed or, have family moments. And they're very creative and like intentional with everything that they've done. So for them, we're going to be starting their show. I almost want to say the name, but I'm going to keep it a secret for now.
Yeah, sure.
But we're starting their show, and that is probably going to be a show that like can pop off, right? They're going to have a lot of viewers really quickly. So that's how you can kind of have that happen. If you don't have that type of exposure to audience and things like that, it really is going to come down to sharing audiences. And, I like to think of a podcast like your home party, your house party. You have your house party. You're like, everyone come over for brunch. Like, I got the bacon. Like, bring some juice if you want, whatever. Like, but it's your house. Like, you're setting it up. You're telling them the time, the day. Like, here's who's going to be here. So the podcast is like your house party. But if you're going to be someone that's involved in the community, you're probably not just only going to go to your own house parties. You're going to go to other people's too, and connect and get to know the friends that are at their house, right? So you got to get yourself out there, and that's where doing like podcast swaps, things like that are super fun. And you just build up those relationships, and if you do it strategically, you can have exponential growth, even organically and starting with a small audience.
Amazing. You had me at bacon, so
Yeah.
now I'm
little
hungry. I'm hungry, so that's good. I felt a little growl. So, so something that you've done really well, in addition to the podcast. So, congratulations on the 400 million downloads and monetizing that. You've done a really great job, visibility and brand building, and being featured on so many different covers, such as is it Forbes? Let me just look at your landing page here. How does someone go about doing that?
That was all through a relationship. So it's amazing what's possible. But yeah, through relationships, through people that I've met and connected, and I think there's more people that want to help move forward that we sometimes think in mind. We might think, I'm not that big enough, or I'm not ready. Like a lot of you actually on prior to even having a podcast and having this big impact. It was more a specific impact that I was having with my coaching, and it was people just wanting to share my story, get it out there, and have those relationships develop.
Amazing. So I think what I'm getting from what you're saying is relationships matter, and building those relationships can lead to better things, which does take time. And we're not trying to do it for the sake of getting something, but we're trying to, do the opposite, which is giving and serving. And that's the way of, how we follow our faith in God, is by loving God and loving others. So tell us about your faith and how that obviously drives an important role in your business, in your life, in your family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll kind of speak to the relationship piece a little bit more in relationship to that. So it's amazing because God gives us these ways that we can steward what he's given us. He gives us seeds, and then he says, here's what you can do to steward those. And so that's what I think of when I get to connect with people. A relationship at the beginning, it's just a seed. Maybe some people, they come into your life and I'm like, a soul sister. Like, how did we not know each other, right? But a lot of times it's like this little seed that needs to be nurtured. And so you got to be someone that's showing up. And I would even take it a step further, like have systems in place. I'm a systems girl. Like, have systems in place so that way you are showing up in those important times and in the in between. So that's something that we've really developed, sort of on the back end of business and leadership, are just ways to really stay connected with our people. And I'm talking personal relationships, leads, partnerships. Like, you got to have a way to organize and keep track of all that stuff. So back to the faith piece, though, I think when we had our son, he brought Jesus back into our lives. And it was just the most miraculous and simple way that it could have ever happened. And it was so cool because that happened. And prior to that, I was very much not not walking with Jesus, but I say I was walking with God and spirit, but I missed the Jesus part, which if you don't have Jesus, you're actually carrying a lot of extra weight. And so I felt like, wow, okay, like, oh my goodness, Jesus, like this is amazing. Thank you, God, because all of a sudden now I have this full picture of really like how God wants me to basically armor up in life and be able to be, his servant and just like love him even more, because I had that love for God since the car accident, but it really became full circle of where I could see how I can start to serve him instead of just like, wow, God, thank you for saving my life. Now I'm like, oh, I actually want to be a servant to what you're doing here because you're amazing. So everything shifted for us and it was just a really the biggest thing that I like to say is I was in the personal development space, which sort of just started to feel like a hamster wheel at a certain time. And I just noticed, the personal development, the healing space, there's amazing things there. And I think it's important not to throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? But I just noticed there's sort of cycles and I'm seeing people kind of doing the same thing. And I'm like, isn't this supposed to end and like we like move on and like do a different chapter? And that's what I really got to experience once I had Jesus come into my life. There was a big closure with a lot of things, and then it opened up a lot of new doors that I think I didn't even know were possible, and a renewing of just our spirit, and the things that are most important. So yeah, everything comes back to Jesus for us. We have given over our lives, our business, everything. And there's a big purpose that we have in terms of my husband and I, we have a nonprofit together and moving that and fueling that. And so it's just really cool to see that all come together.
That's amazing. And you said, like, instead of just saving your life, which many people can do and just say, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and let me just live my own life and make lots of money and do my own thing. But you said, how can I serve him? So I know you said you had a nonprofit together. I'm not sure if that's your why or mission, but what is your why and mission now that you're giving back to God and others?
Yeah, the nonprofit's sort of getting recultivated. It was one that my husband started about 6-7 years ago. So I'm gonna not quite speak to that because God's still kind of working it out with us right now. But I would just say our biggest mission is really, because I think there's a lot of people that have these moments, these stories with God. And I think just like how he walked me out of it, and he showed me the vision, and I wasn't sure how I was going to walk out of it, but I knew he was going to like be there with me throughout the whole thing. He walked me out of it. But when he did, he also told me, hey, like, I'm not going to walk you out of this just for your own sake. Definitely not like for your own glory, but like also not just for you to get strong and like you said, like make money and do that. I'm going to do it so you can share your story, so you can inspire others to do their thing and share their story. And so that's really what's fueling us right now, is that we know that there are so many other people that have had these beautiful moments with God, these what I like to call a miracle moment, where God has radically shifted their life and now they are of service to something else, and it's moving humanity forward. It's bringing us together. It's creating positive impact. And I believe that there's a lot of people that are trying to move their mission forward without sharing their story, and yet the story is the thing that's going to unlock people actually connecting to them and developing those relationships. So that's really our why, is we just want to see people come together. And I think as we come together more, especially in this age of technology and, people being disconnected, we need to, like I said, take off that mask, get off of our phones, get out from behind the computer, like go connect with people and really do life with one another. And that's going to come down to us being authentic and sharing our stories. And if we can do that in a way where we can impact more people and use this technology in a way that, we're actually creating more connections, doing more of God's work, then how cool is that? So that's really what our why is right now.
I love it. You said something that was like, many people are trying to move their mission forward, but they don't know how to share their story. And that's where you come in. And when you said doing life together, this is a huge, I think, a challenge or a gap that many people have, because a lot of people, including entrepreneurs, are very lonely, and they're in spaces that are, not filling their like a gap of community. And even in faith, you look at how people come to faith. a lot of times it's, not the supernatural where you're, diving off of a cliff, but it's finding a community where you can belong before you believe. I want to ask a sales question, and then we're going to wrap this up. And I'd like to ask for another opportunity because there's so many more questions I want to ask. A person is interested in joining your program. Let's say, cash was an issue, cash flow, and then you get them like, some sort of like a loan or credit that they get approved for. And they're like, okay, now cash is not an issue. And then now they bring another objection where they say, well, I need to pray about it because every decision I make, I need to pray to God and ask him. And so the intent is there. The buyer signals are there. They're at a 9 or a 10 in terms of your solution. Money was an issue that got solved. Now they're asking, for time because they need to pray about it. What's your best practice for sales objections in handling those issues?
Yeah, I think best practices is usually just addressing these things right from the start. So getting clear with them prior to that even coming up around like, hey, have you prayed about this with God? Like, what has he said about your timing? So that way we can let it be the truth and not just like a scapegoat. I think that's really important. So to just actually have those conversations at the very beginning before even bringing up price and all of that stuff. And usually that actually like creates a lot of alignment. And what I found is maybe someone's like, yeah, actually I like haven't prayed on it, or like I have this like set aside time, like I'm going to go on a retreat and I want this time with God. And I'm like, cool, let's talk after that. Like if that's that important to you and you want to prioritize that over this conversation, then absolutely, like it's always God first. But it kind of lets them have a little check in their own heart and spirit around, am I totally ready? And I don't want to waste anyone's time, and kind of just creating that type of conversation prior to even getting into, okay, are we a good fit to work together?
Yeah, because I find, I don't know about majority of times, but like, because this is all subjective, but a lot of times there's like the objections. I mean, there's justifiable objections, but a lot of them are actually really like they're afraid, or they've been burned, and just like when we don't get down to the root causes or issues, it becomes a smoke and mirror. And then some of the things I say is, so Rae, what's really going on? Is it really the money, or is it really prayer? Because you're a woman of faith, your husband's supporting you, you get to be in Dominican Republic and live the life that you want. So I mean, when we talk about investment and when we talk about prayer, you have lived out that life by investing in yourself. You've actually prayed, and God has got you out of prison to profit. So what's the real issue here?
Yeah.
Right? And just getting down to like, let's be real. And then I've had conversations with people and they'd be like, hey, can I be real right now? Because I've asked those questions. And I'm like, thank goodness you weren't being real before. It's like, at the health food store, it's like there's a health food section. What does that mean for the other foods, right? Like
Totally. Yeah, it's so good. I know. We got to be real with each other, but I think so also we all need a leader, right? And so if you're the one in the sales seat, like it's good to just take that initiative and create that realness. I love that, Jay.
And it's hard because I used to be a people pleaser. I almost said I am a people pleaser, but I used to be a people pleaser. Yeah. So we changed that narrative, and thank the Lord. And now I get to kind of be a truth teller and not try to be their friend. So that brings us to our lightning round to get to know Rae Irelan. So I want to ask you a couple of lightning round questions just to get to know you a bit better with some fun, quirky, fast questions. So favorite podcast you're loving right now and why?
Ooh, definitely Diaries of a CEO. It's such a good show. And he just goes into so many unique topics and brings on incredible experts.
Awesome. One lesson every creator should learn early.
Oh, just do it. Stop waiting.
Coffee or tea?
You're going to fail either way.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Dream collaboration. Who would it be with and what would it look like?
Ooh, dream collaboration. Gosh, I don't know. I would say Brooke Thomas. She's one of my coaches, and she actually just wrote the foreword to my new book. So that was kind of the dream collaboration right there.
So you're already living it out. Awesome. Yeah. Best piece of business advice you've ever received?
best piece of business advice is be intentional. The price doesn't really matter. It matters about what is the intent going into it. And you can work on the little details. Like it kind of comes down to a Starbucks being on one side of the street and then this like unique little cafe that's known for this specific drink, right? That is more than Starbucks, but there's a line out the door and no one's in the Starbucks. So there was just an incredible businessman that taught me that and took me around Dublin, Ireland one time and showed me and laid it out and said, look at these prices here. Look at what they're doing here. Why is this one busy? Why is this one not? And we just laid out and got to see the intentionality behind everything that is happening and how all those little details really do matter in the customer experience and how that can go miles beyond, shortcutting what your customer is experiencing just to like save a few pennies.
Amazing. I love that. And being different and how you stand out is so important. And that leads to our last question. So as a sales ninja, my kind of tagline is sell more, give more. So sell more to give more. What does that mean to you personally?
That means sell more is serve more to me. So serve more, give more. I mean, it's an expansion of capacity. And so that's something that I pray often, being a mom, entrepreneur, traveler, musician, writer. I'm like, God, you want me to do something else? Okay, then expand my capacity. Let me receive more. Let me sell more. Let me serve more. Let me give more. You show me what that looks like, because right now I can't see it in my human eyes. So show me. And
amazing.
Usually it's a pretty big vision.
So I see here that you have a school community that is free that people can get access to. You also have the Evolved podcasting show that you have as well. We're going to put it up online. If you guys want to connect with Rae, you can also find her on Instagram. You can find her on LinkedIn. And if you guys want to join her school community, it is in the link below in the show notes. Any last words for people who are thinking about jumping off the cliff?
Don't do it. Don't jump off the cliff. There's a better God plan for you. And if you're already here, you're connected with people. So just reach out and just find the people that are going to anchor during those times. And get support. There's so much support there. And so I just love that he's doing this. Obviously, he's doing this multiple times. Stay connected. Your community. That's what's most important.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Rae. And thank you from the surfing grounds of Puerto Rico, where you can enjoy the warm weather. And we are here to help you to sell more, to give more. If you guys are a 7-figure entrepreneur and want to be on the podcast, just comment podcast and we will get in the application process to see if you're a good fit. Again, Rae, thank you so much for your time. You're a delight and God bless you.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay, take care for now.
See ya.
Okay, we are off